Hello everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time I go back to the very beginning. So I have in front of me, as always, the television companion. Now this television companion, when it was created in 1998, it's nearly a 20-year-old book. At the time it had a different name for some of the earlier Hartnell era stories, because for the first 2 and a bit years each episode was named individually, so they didn't really have a title to lump them all together. Some of the names have still stuck as today goes on. This one hasn't though. It's called 100,000 BC in this book, even though we now know it traditionally now as An Unearthly Child, which is the name of the very first episode of this story. As always, I've got the plot here, so we'll get on with it and we'll read what the plot synopsis says for this time round. School teachers Barbara Wright and Ian Chesterton become intrigued by one of their pupils, Susan Foreman, and visit her home address, a junkyard at 76 Totters Lane, where they meet her grandfather, the Doctor. The Doctor and Susan are aliens who travel through time and space in their ship, the TARDIS, which looks like an ordinary police box, but actually houses a huge, gleaming control room. The TARDIS takes them all to a Paleolithic landscape where they encounter a tribe that has lost the secret of fire. That's the plotline. Quite short, it doesn't have the full synopsis of it, but this is a 2-tier story. You get the first episode, which is the famous opening episode of them trying to find out who this Susan Foreman actually really is, and then you've got the other 3 episodes when they're trying to trying to escape from the cavemen who have lost their way for fire, so they get caught up a few times. And I just wanted to really do this in 2 sections, this review. The first episode, because of the actual name, you know, the way the episode is, and because it's so iconic, and also then go into the second part, which is effectively a 2-act play this. So you've got the first part, which is very short, but it's very intriguing, and then you've got the second part, which is more like a run-of-the-mill, what traditionally would be a run-of-the-mill Doctor Who story of the period. So we open up with the theme, the famous theme tune, and a policeman parading round Totters Lane, checking everything's okay on a very foggy winter night in London. And of course, it then goes into the junkyard, and the opening shot before the caption, final opening shot before the caption, is a picture of the TARDIS with the familiar hum that we've become used to knowing. It moves to the school setting with the 2 teachers talking about this pupil that they find a little strange, and decide and agree to come together and actually, you know, arrange to see where she is. They go into this junkyard, find the TARDIS, go into it after confronting the Doctor, and then get sped away into time and space itself, back to the Stone Age, back to the Paleolithic era, as it says here. I mean, there's a couple of interesting points that I noticed in this episode, and I will get to the casting in a minute. A couple of things which are quite zeitgeisty maybe at the time. The fact they wait for a scrapyard, that's something you wouldn't have nowadays. 2 adults stalking, it seems a bit but they're just intrigued at the end of the day. There was a mention when one of the flashbacks, when they were talking about the decimal system, and Susan mentioned about the decimal system, said of course it hasn't started yet. And I thought that's quite a nice little nod. It's obviously a scripting thing, but it's quite interesting that 8 years later, that's exactly what did happen. Britain went to the decimal system for money. One of the best comments that I have of that one is the comment where the Barbara and Ian are in the car, and she turns around and says,
"Silly, isn't it? I feel frightened, as if we were about to interfere in something that is best left alone." Quite
creepy, you know. It's really weird. Really intriguing. And the relationship between the 2 of them is great. You can see that they have a fondness for each other. They always seem to skip on the fact that they may care for each other a little more deeply as the time goes on, and later non-canon and spin-off things indicate that they did hook up as such. And then you've got the first step into the TARDIS and the wonder. And they play it so well. Barbara Wright and Ian Chesterton, William Russell and Jacqueline Hill. They play it so right. They really do make the episode worth watching at that point, because you're going, wow, what an amazing idea. This idea of something bigger on the inside of a police box, which you could virtually walk around in about 10 seconds. It's not really something you would expect to see in a junkyard, and they bring that amazement quite brilliantly. And then you've got the Doctor himself, very gruff, but actually, if you think about it, he's actually scared. He doesn't want to be found out. He doesn't want. He's trying to tread carefully. He doesn't want to have. He wants to care for his granddaughter. He wants to travel, but he doesn't want to interfere majorly. He wants to just look. He wants to explore, and he doesn't like the idea of these strangers coming and interfering with his set-up lifestyle, the way he set things up and made things, a life for him and Susan, and they're going to come in and shake it all up. He isn't a great fan of that, and that's probably a part of the reason why he's aloof. He's scared at the end of the day, and that's one thing that people don't realise in the first couple of episodes, that the Doctor's actually scared. It does show later on in the second part. They'll get to that in a minute, but of course you've got the famous line of
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension? Have you? To be exiles? Susan and I are cut off from our own planet, without friends or protection. But one day, we shall get back. Yes, one day.
That's one of the most iconic lines in the series, and it's in the very first episode. And then the second episode has...
If you could touch the alien sand and hear the cries of strange birds and watch them wheel in another sky, would that satisfy you?
That's another quote. There's a couple of famous quotes in this very first couple of episodes that simulate the wonder of what they're doing in the series at that time, and it was such a groundbreaking start. We'll go on to the second set. It's a basic runaround. It's cavemen who basically the actors are acting like children. I think that's how they were told to work, is to work like children, act like children. It does come across like that, and they're played very well. I mean, Aileen Way is great as the old woman. You've got the other characters there as well who are very well played as well. And then you've got, who have we got here? We've got Derek Newark, who plays Tsar. He's very good. He appears later in Inferno in an even better part. Aletha Charlton, who plays her. Very interesting portrayal of how she's done that. I did enjoy it. She does appear another time. And then you've got Cal, who's Jeremy Young, who is the intruder, the interloper, and the kind of tribal fighting that goes on between them. And then you've got the cast themselves. Speaking of the cast, you've got William Hartnell, of course, as the very first incarnation of the Doctor. Very gruff, very aloof, but as I say, actually playing a Doctor who's actually scared of what might happen and doesn't want to involve himself in adventures if he can get away with it. He wants to just look and watch, and he's excited about where he's going, and he likes to explore, but I get the impression he doesn't really want to interfere at this point, and it does come across in the first few episodes that's exactly what they're doing. The first few stories, it's what they're doing. Obviously the Aztecs, which I reviewed earlier in this series, he mentions you can't rewrite history, not one line. That ethos is there from the beginning. He's there to observe and watch. He's not there to interfere or cause more havoc. Obviously they do get involved. They get in peril there because they get caught out, because the Doctor, for the first and only time, smokes in this story. He gets knocked out of him rather quickly. And I mean rather quickly. Cal knocks him out of him, and you never see him light up ever again in the series, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I don't think we would really want a role model of somebody who smokes. That's a great thing about the Doctor, he never smokes. But yeah, he had smoked a pipe and got it knocked out of him, and then he got taken to the cave, to the tribe, and they say he can make fire, and that's the plot, them trying to get fire, and the whole way of them doing it, and they end up helping at the end to get them to get fire, but they thought it was to try and get them to leave so they could disappear, but then Tsar has other ideas. It's an intriguing little plot line, but it's fairly simple. It is really simple by storyline's purposes. You've then got Carol Ann Ford. I'm sorry, the kooky alienness in the first episode, yes, it works, but then she starts very quickly coming into a very scared, screaming stereotype, and she just can't act it. She's terrible. She's rubbish. I don't understand the character. You're kind of glad when Susan goes all those, at the beginning of the following season, because the character doesn't work that well. I prefer Vicky over Susan. I'm sorry. I just prefer the younger character dynamic like Vicky more than I do Susan. I think it just works better. Susan's just obnoxious. She knows she's too cocky. I just don't like the characterization. And I don't like Carol Ann Ford's acting. She's off compared to the other three. Speaking of the other characters, Jacqueline Hill's brilliant as Barbara. She just has the right vulnerability, but there's intelligence there, and she is trying to make her point across. And yeah, she does scream. That's the standard of 60s Doctor Who for any female companion, any female in that case. But she is brave, she is fearless, and she just tried to work along. I think she loves the support of Ian, and William Russell is just... If William Hartnell wasn't the Doctor, wasn't the main focus here, then it certainly would be William Russell's role. He would be the star because he's brilliant as Ian. I love the characterization. I love the fact that he's quite intelligent and, you know, wants to think things through. He is quite, you know, he doesn't believe that they've moved until they actually step outside the TARDIS. That's a really interesting point in the way they've done that, and I think that's a really interesting way to do things. But yeah, I love the way he's characterized, and I love William Russell's performance. I think it's really good. Overall, the story is basic fare after the brilliant first episode. The first episode just really sets everything up, and there's plenty of series out there that start with the first episode that kind of establishes what goes on, and then you keep to a formula. The first episode of Doctor Who establishes, ooh, what's this? What are they doing? Where are they going? But it's so much of a mystery. It's more like a play for today type mystery at the beginning. It's really an intriguing idea. But I really do like the story, I really do enjoy it, and it is a yearly ritual that I watch at least the very first episode, if not the whole story. Sometimes I can't manage that due to work commitments and other things, but on the 23rd of November every year I've watched that episode, and I still enjoy it today. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. I will give you my TARDISes out of 5. If it was like the first episode, it would be 5 out of 5, but the rest of the story is very limited fare. It's not the strongest of the rest of the story, that second part. It's not the strongest writing, so it brings it down to 4 out of 5 TARDISes. But if it wasn't for the other 3 episodes, then it definitely would be my first 5 out of 5 of the series. Anyway, yes, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below. I hope you've enjoyed all the videos we've released this month. My reaction to the 13th Doctor's costume is up there, or is it up there? I think it's up there. It's one of the two anyway. It's up there somewhere. I can't remember. I think it's that direction anyway. But yeah, that's there. And if you check that out, check my reaction out, and don't forget to check out all the other videos. Next week is a Kidstructor video, as always, for Odd Week, and let's just say we're going a bit more detectory next week when we talk about the character or the TV series that I'm going to be reviewing. If you want to find out what it is, stay tuned. I release a video every Sunday at 4 PM GMT. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like what you see. Don't forget to comment below, and don't forget to hit that little notifications bell as well, so you know when the episode is when the next video is released. But until then, thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you later.